Single mum, shelters, a tourist, during a storm, unaware. He is a millionaire. Next day, he comes with a ring. Have you ever wondered if one small act of kindness could change your whole life? The night Hannah Wilson opened her door during the worst storm of the year, she was just trying to help someone in need. Rain-soaked and lost, he seemed like any other tourist caught in bad weather. She never imagined she was inviting a millionaire into her tiny living room. When he showed up the next day holding a small velvet box, Hannah's heart stopped. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of her story. Sometimes the biggest storms bring the most unexpected blessings. If you love stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary love, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end. Hannah Wilson checked her watch as she rushed through the front door of her small rental house, already 10 minutes late picking up Lily from after-school care. Again. The daycare charged extra for every 15 minutes past 5 o'clock, and Hannah couldn't afford one more late fee this month. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Parker," Hannah said as she hurried into the daycare center. The hospital was short-staffed today. 7-year-old Lily jumped up from the reading corner, her dark curls bouncing as she ran to her mother. "Mom, I finished my book." "That's great, sweetie." Hannah smiled down at her daughter while digging in her purse for her wallet. She handed Mrs. Parker the late fee, trying not to think about how that $20 was supposed to cover groceries for the weekend. Back in the car, Hannah listened to Lily chat about school while she mentally calculated the bills due this week. Her job as a nursing assistant at the local hospital barely covered rent and utilities. Her weekend shifts at the coffee shop helped with food and gas, and somehow she still needed to find time for her online nursing classes. Dark clouds gathered over the ocean as they drove home. The local radio station interrupted the music with a weather alert. Severe storm warning in effect for Bayview County. High winds, potential flooding and power outages expected. All residents advised to stay indoors. "Is it going to be a bad storm, Mom?" Lily asked, her voice small. "We'll be okay," Hannah assured her. "We've been through storms before." At home, Hannah pulled out their emergency kit. Flashlights, batteries, candles, bottled water. Just as she put soup on the stove for dinner, the rain began. Not just regular rain, but sheets of water slamming against the windows. The wind howled around the corners of their small house. "Mom, I'm scared," Lily whispered, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Come help me make some hot chocolate," Hannah said, trying to distract her. "Then we can build a blanket fort in the living room." Just as they finished their cocoa, the lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. "It's okay," Hannah said quickly, turning on a flashlight. "Let's light some candles." The storm grew stronger. Water began seeping under the back door. Hannah grabbed old towels to stuff against the crack, while Lily held the flashlight. The wind rattled the windows so hard, Hannah worried they might break. Then came a knock at the door. Hannah froze. Who would be out in this weather? "Stay here," she told Lily, grabbing the flashlight. She peered through the peephole. A man stood on her porch, completely drenched. He wore what looked like expensive clothes, now ruined by the rain. "Hello," she called through the door. "Who is it?" "I'm sorry to bother you," came a deep voice. "My car broke down up the road. My phone's dead. I just need to call for help." Hannah bit her lip. She didn't normally open her door to strangers, especially with Lily in the house. But the storm was dangerous. Lightning cracked across the sky, followed by thunder so loud it shook the house. She made a decision and opened the door, just enough to see him clearly. "Thank you," he said, water dripping from his dark hair. "I'm James Crawford." "Hannah Wilson, come in, but just to make a call." James stepped inside, looking relieved. His shoes squeaked on her worn linoleum floor. He wore a dress shirt that probably cost more than her weekly paycheck, and an expensive watch gleamed on his wrist. "My car died about half a mile back," he explained, looking around her small living room with poorly hidden surprise. "I was trying to get to my rental before the storm hit." "You're not from around here," Hannah said. It wasn't a question. "No, just in town for—" He paused. "Business." Lily peeked around the corner, curious about their visitor. "This is my daughter Lily," Hannah said, "and I'm afraid our power's out, so your phone won't charge here. You're welcome to wait out the worst of the storm, though." "I don't want to impose," James said, standing awkwardly in the middle of her living room, looking completely out of place among her second-hand furniture and bargain store decorations. Another crash of thunder made them all jump. "You're not going anywhere in this," Hannah decided. "Let me get you a towel." Hannah handed James a faded towel and some dry clothes that belonged to her brother. "They might be a little small, but they're dry." "Thank you." James looked at the worn sweatpants and T-shirt like they were from another planet. He disappeared into the bathroom to change. When he returned, Lily giggled. The pants ended above his ankles, and the shirt stretched tight across his shoulders. "Sorry," Hannah said. "Best I could do." "No, this is perfect." James smiled for the first time, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I appreciate it." The storm howled outside as Hannah lit more candles around the living room. The soft glow made everything look warmer somehow. "Are you hungry?" Hannah asked. "I was about to heat soup for dinner, but with the power out—" "I can help," James offered. "I'm not much of a cook, but I can follow directions." In the kitchen, Hannah showed him how to use the camping stove she kept for emergencies. Their hands brushed as she passed him a can opener, and she pulled back quickly. "So what brings you to Bayview?" Hannah asked. "Not exactly a tourist hotspot, especially in storm season." James concentrated on opening the soup can. "Business, mostly. I'm evaluating some property investments in the area." "Sounds important," Hannah said, not pushing for details. "Mom, the ceiling is dripping," Lily called from the living room. Hannah rushed in to find water leaking through a corner of the ceiling. "Not again," she groaned. "That spot never got fixed right after the last storm." James looked up at the growing water stain. "I could take a look." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "You fix roofs?" "Well, no," he admitted, "but I can learn." 20 minutes later, Hannah stood on a chair holding a flashlight, while James balanced precariously on her stepladder, pressing a patch against the leak. "Hand me that duct tape," he said, his designer watch catching the flashlight beam. Hannah passed him the tape. "That watch probably costs more than my car." James glanced at it self-consciously. It was a gift. After dinner, soup and crackers by candlelight, Lily pulled out her favorite board game. "Will you play with us?" she asked James, looking up with big eyes that were impossible to refuse. "I should warn you," he said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "I'm very competitive." Lily beat him 3 times in a row. The wind still rattled the windows, but inside the tension had eased. James relaxed on their worn couch, his feet propped on the coffee table. "Lily, time for bed," Hannah said after the 3rd game. "But, Mom, the storm is still scary." "I could tell her a story," James offered, surprising himself. "My mom used to tell me stories during thunderstorms." Hannah hesitated, then nodded. In Lily's small bedroom, James sat on the edge of the bed. and told a tale about a brave princess who saved her kingdom from a magical storm. Lily's eyes grew heavy as his deep voice continued, the storm outside becoming just background noise to the story. When Hannah checked 10 minutes later, Lily was sound asleep. James tiptoed out of the room. "You're good with her," Hannah said as they returned to the living room. "She makes it easy. She's a great kid." Hannah smiled, pride mixing with a touch of sadness. "I try my best. It's not always easy doing this alone." "Her father isn't in the picture?" "Left when she was 2. Decided family life wasn't exciting enough." James shook his head. His loss. The candlelight flickered across their faces as the conversation deepened. Hannah talked about her nursing classes, her dreams of opening a small clinic someday. James listened, asking questions that showed he was truly interested. "What about you?" Hannah asked. "Always in business. Seems like forever," he said. "I travel constantly, live out of hotels, wake up sometimes not remembering what city I'm in." "Sounds lonely." Their eyes met across the candle flame. For a moment neither spoke. "Sometimes," James admitted, "but not tonight." The storm continued outside, but inside Hannah's modest home, something unexpected was taking root, a connection neither of them had been looking for. Hannah woke to sunlight streaming through her curtains. The storm had finally passed. She found James already awake, looking out the front window at the neighborhood. "It's pretty bad out there," he said as she joined him. "Downed trees, power lines. Mrs. Garcia's fence is completely destroyed." Hannah sighed. "It happens every big storm. We'll all help each other clean up. That's how it works around here." Lily bounded into the room, hair wild from sleep. "Is the storm gone?" "All gone," James said, smiling down at her. "Your mom's coffee machine still won't work, though." "I've got a camping pot for that, too," Hannah said, heading to the kitchen. "Can't face the day without coffee." They ate a simple breakfast of cereal and fruit, while Lily chatted about her plans to help clean up the yard. James checked his phone, which finally had signal. "My car's been towed to a garage," he said. "I've got someone coming to pick me up in about 30 minutes. "Back to business?" Hannah asked. "Something like that." James hesitated. "Thank you for everything. Not everyone would open their door to a stranger in a storm." "Anyone would have done the same." "No," he said seriously, "they wouldn't have." Before his ride arrived, James helped Hannah move fallen branches from her tiny front yard. His expensive shoes were ruined with mud, but he didn't seem to care. "Here," he said, handing her his business card. Just a simple white card with his name and phone number. "In case you ever need anything, a reference for your nursing career or anything." Hannah took it, feeling suddenly awkward. "I don't have a card, but—" She scribbled her number on a scrap of paper from her purse. A sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the house. The driver wore sunglasses and a suit, looking completely out of place on their humble street. "That's my ride," James said. Lily ran over and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Will you come visit us again?" James looked surprised, then touched. "I'd like that." He shook Hannah's hand, holding it perhaps a moment longer than necessary. Then he was gone, the fancy SUV disappearing down the street. Hannah went back inside to start cleaning up. As she folded the blanket James had used, an envelope fell to the floor. Inside was $5,000 in $100 bills. Her hands shook. This was enough to cover her tuition for the semester, enough to fix the roof properly, enough to breathe just a little easier. But it felt wrong, like he thought she had helped him for money, like her kindness had a price tag. "Mom, what's that?" Lily asked, pointing to the envelope. Hannah quickly put it in her pocket. "Nothing, sweetie, just a note from James." 20 miles away, James Crawford stepped into his ocean-front rental property. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a perfect view of the ocean, now calm after the storm. The modern furniture and state-of-the-art kitchen stood in stark contrast to Hannah's modest home. His phone rang. The caller ID read, "Mark Davis, CFO." "Crawford," James answered. "James, where have you been? The Tokyo call is in 30 minutes, and the board needs your decision on the Pacific merger before end of day." "I got caught in the storm. Had to stay with a local family." "Well, you're back in civilization now. The real estate team is ready whenever you want to see those properties." James walked to the window, thinking about Hannah's worn couch and the way she'd stretched a simple meal to include a stranger. "James, are you there? Did we lose you again?" "I'm here," James said. "Mark, what do we know about healthcare access in Bayview?" "Healthcare? That wasn't part of the development plan." "It is now." James couldn't stop seeing Hannah's determined face as she talked about becoming a nurse, her strength in raising Lily alone, the way she'd offered shelter without expecting anything in return. "I met someone during the storm," James said. "Someone who made me think differently about what we're doing here." "Oh no," Mark groaned. "Not another charity case. James, you're worth $500 million. You can't keep—" "Schedule a meeting with the foundation team tomorrow," James interrupted, "and find out everything you can about nursing education programs in Bayview County." James hung up and looked down at the scrap of paper with Hannah's phone number. For the first time in years, business was the last thing on his mind. Hannah was sorting through bills at her kitchen table when a knock came at the door. Lily was at school and Hannah wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door to find James standing there, looking more like himself in pressed slacks and a button-down shirt. "James, what are you doing here?" "I needed to talk to you." He seemed nervous, shifting his weight from one foot to another. "Can I come in?" Hannah hesitated, then stepped aside. James entered, looking around her small living room like he was seeing it for the first time in daylight. "I was going to call," Hannah said, crossing her arms, "about the money you left." "That's not why I'm here." James reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Hannah's eyes widened. Her mind raced with confusion. What was happening? They barely knew each other. "This isn't— I'm not—" James stumbled over his words, noticing her expression. "It's not what you think." He handed her the box. With shaking fingers, Hannah opened it. Inside was a vintage gold ring with a small ruby, beautiful but not extravagant. "I don't understand," she said. James took a deep breath. "That ring belonged to my grandmother. She grew up poor in a small town not unlike this one. She had dreams of becoming a doctor, but ended up a nurse because that's all that was available to women then." Hannah looked up from the ring. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because last night, when you talked about your dream of opening a clinic here, I saw the same determination in your eyes that my grandmother had, the same passion." "That's very nice, but—" "I want to invest in your clinic, Hannah," James said it plainly, "not as charity, as a business partner." Hannah stared at him. "My clinic? But that's just a dream. I'm still in nursing school. I have years to go before—" "Sometimes dreams need a push to become reality." James sat on her couch, leaning forward earnestly. "I have the resources to make it happen. You have the vision and the determination." Hannah carefully closed the ring box and placed it on the coffee table between them. What resources exactly? You said you were here on business, but you never really explained what you do. James looked down at his hands. That's fair. I wasn't completely honest with you. What do you mean? My name is James Crawford. I founded Crawford Technologies. We develop healthcare software systems. Hannah's jaw dropped. Crawford Tech, the company worth billions. Not billions, James said with an awkward smile. Just under one, last valuation. Hannah stood up, pacing her small living room. So you're a millionaire? Yes. And you let me give you my brother's old clothes and feed you soup from a can. Best soup I've had in years, actually. Hannah wasn't smiling. Why were you really in town? And don't say business travel. James sighed. My company is planning to build a tech campus outside Bayview. I was here to look at potential properties without drawing attention. If word got out that Crawford Tech was interested, land prices would skyrocket. So you were hiding your identity, and then you ended up in my house. Hannah's voice hardened. And now you're back with some grand offer to change my life. It's not like that. The storm was real. My car really did break down. Everything that happened here was genuine. Was it? Hannah picked up the ring box. And this? What is this really? Some rich guy's guilt money because a poor single mom helped him during a storm? No. James stood up, his voice firm. That ring is a symbol. My grandmother started with nothing. She worked hard, saved everything, put my father through college. That ring was her most prized possession. She wore it every day until she died, even though my grandfather offered to buy her diamonds later when they could afford them. He took a step closer to Hannah. I'm offering a business partnership. You provide the medical expertise and community connection. I provide the capital and business experience. The clinic would be yours, Hannah. I'd be a silent investor. Hannah shook her head, trying to process everything. Why? Why would you do this for a stranger? James looked at her steadily. Because you showed kindness without expecting anything in return. Because you're smart and determined. Because this town needs better health care, and you're the right person to provide it. Hannah placed the ring box back on the table. I need to think about this. It's too much, too fast. I understand. James pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Here's the proposal. Take your time. My number's inside. Real one this time. As he moved toward the door, Hannah called after him. Was anything you told me during the storm true? About your life? About anything? James paused with his hand on the doorknob. Everything I said was true, Hannah. I just left out the parts about my bank account. After he left, Hannah sat staring at the velvet box and folder. The opportunity of a lifetime from a man she'd just met, who wasn't who she thought he was. A dream within reach. But at what cost? Hannah pushed her shopping cart down the cereal aisle at Bayview's only grocery store. Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson stood nearby, their whispers stopping suddenly when they spotted Hannah. Good morning, Hannah said politely. Morning, dear, Mrs. Peterson replied, her eyes lit with curiosity. We heard you had some company during the storm. Hannah grabbed a box of Lily's favorite cereal. James was stranded when his car broke down. I just helped someone in need. Of course you did, Mrs. Johnson said with a knowing smile. And now he's back in town, staying at that fancy rental on the beach, driving a very expensive car, too. Very handsome man, Mrs. Peterson added, and single from what we hear. Hannah felt her cheeks warm. Excuse me, I need to get milk. As she turned the corner, she heard Mrs. Johnson's voice. Can't blame her. Single mom, struggling with bills. She sees an opportunity. Hannah gripped her cart tighter. The town had always been supportive of her until now. Suddenly she was the subject of whispers and knowing looks. Outside the store, Hannah ran into her friend Sarah. "There you are." Sarah pulled her aside. "Is it true? You're dating a millionaire?" "I'm not dating anyone," Hannah hissed. "James and I are discussing a business opportunity, that's all." "Business, huh?" Sarah wiggled her eyebrows. "That's what they call it now." At the town's only coffee shop, James waited in line, scrolling through emails on his phone. He'd traded his usual designer clothes for jeans and a simple button-down, but still felt like he stood out. "You must be Hannah Wilson's friend," said the barista when he reached the counter. Her name tag read Becky. James looked up, surprised. "Yes, I'm James." "I know who you are." Becky's smile was friendly but curious. "Everyone knows by now. What can I get you?" "Just a black coffee, please." "Hannah likes the caramel lattes," Becky said casually. "If you're heading that way." James blinked. "Thanks, I'll remember that." As he waited for his coffee, his phone rang. Mark, his CFO, again. "James, the board is asking questions. You've been in Bayview for a week now. The property scouts only needed 3 days." "I'm exploring additional opportunities," James said. "Like this clinic idea. James, we build tech campuses, not health centers. It's a potential community investment. Crawford Tech has a philanthropy arm. This feels personal, not professional." Mark sighed. "Look, just don't make any promises you'll regret, okay? Remember Seattle." James frowned. "This is different." Hannah opened her front door that evening to find her ex-husband, Derek, standing on her porch. 5 years older than when he'd walked out, but with the same charming smile that once made her heart race. "Surprise," he said, arms wide. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Hannah crossed her arms. "What are you doing here, Derek? You haven't seen Lily in over a year." "I've been busy. Work, you know." He peered past her into the house. "Is she home? I brought her something." Hannah reluctantly let him in. Lily was at a friend's house for a sleepover. "So," Derek said, sitting uninvited on her couch. "I hear you've made some interesting friends lately." Hannah's eyes narrowed. "News travels fast." "Small towns," Derek grinned. "Rich guy, tech business, looking to invest locally. Sounds promising." "It has nothing to do with you." "Hey, I'm just checking on my family." His tone was casual, but his eyes were calculating. "Making sure everything's good. Maybe I can help with the business side of things. I've got experience." "We're not your family anymore," Hannah said coldly, "and I don't need your help." Before Derek could respond, a knock came at the door. Hannah opened it to find James standing there, holding a folder and looking surprised to see someone else in her living room. "Sorry," James said. "I can come back later." "No," Hannah said firmly. "Derek was just leaving." Derek stood, extending his hand to James. "Derek Wilson, Hannah's husband." "Ex-husband," Hannah corrected. "James Crawford." James shook his hand briefly, his expression guarded. Derek's eyebrows shot up. "Crawford Technologies. Man, I use your software at my company. That's impressive stuff." "Thank you," James said politely but coolly. After an awkward moment, Derek grabbed his jacket. "Well, I'm staying at the Bayview Inn. Tell Lily I stopped by. And Hannah—" His voice dropped to a whisper as he passed her. "Don't mess this up. This could be good for all of us." After Derek left, Hannah sank onto the couch, her hands shaking slightly. "Are you okay?" James asked, sitting beside her. "He heard about you," Hannah said. "About your money. That's the only reason he's back." James nodded slowly. "And the town. Everyone's talking. Apparently I'm either a gold digger or incredibly lucky." Hannah laughed bitterly. "Mrs. Davis at the bank asked if we were engaged yet." "I'm sorry," James said. "I didn't think about how this would affect you here." "It's not your fault," Hannah sighed. "Small towns have long memories and active imaginations." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Despite everything, Hannah felt calmer with James there. "I brought the updated clinic proposal," he said finally. "Added the community education component you mentioned." As they reviewed the papers together, their shoulders touched. Hannah felt a flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do with business. "Mom, I'm home early!" Lily burst through the front door, her sleepover apparently cut short. Her face lit up when she saw James. "James, you're back!" She launched herself at him for a hug. James caught her, looking surprised but pleased. "Hey there, Princess," he said, the nickname coming naturally now. Hannah watched them, a complicated feeling in her chest. Lily needed a father figure. James was kind to her. But what happened when he left? When the business was done and he returned to his real life? "Can James stay for dinner?" Lily asked, bouncing on her toes. "Please, I can show him my science project." Hannah met James's eyes over Lily's head. The attraction between them was becoming harder to ignore, but so were the complications. "Sure," Hannah said, "if James wants to stay." "Nothing I'd like more," James replied, his eyes never leaving Hannah's. Later, as Hannah prepared a simple dinner, she overheard Lily showing James her collection of seashells. "This one's my favorite. Dad promised to take me shell hunting when he came back, but he never does." "Some people make promises they can't keep," James said gently, "but the right people show up when it matters." Hannah felt tears sting her eyes. She squared her shoulders and kept cooking. People could gossip all they wanted. Derek could scheme and plot, but she would prove to everyone and to herself that she could build something meaningful without compromising who she was, even if that meant guarding her heart against the way James Crawford made her feel. Hannah sat across from James at the small coffee shop, the business proposal folder closed between them. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows, nothing like the storm that had brought them together. "I appreciate everything," Hannah said, pushing the folder toward him, "but I can't accept." James's face fell. "May I ask why?" "I've been taking care of myself and Lily for 5 years," Hannah explained. "Working double shifts, saving every penny for nursing school. If I take your money now, what does that say about everything I've worked for?" "It says you're smart enough to accept help when it makes sense," James countered. Hannah shook her head. "People already think I'm using you, that I targeted you during the storm somehow. We know that's not true." "And what happens when the clinic fails?" Hannah asked. "Because businesses do fail, James, even with your money behind it." "Then we try again," James said simply. "No, this is my dream. I need to achieve it my way." Hannah stood up. "I'm sorry." James didn't try to change her mind. He just nodded. "I understand." 3 days later, Hannah was surprised to see James's expensive car still parked outside the beach rental. She'd assumed he would leave town after her rejection. When she ran into him at the grocery store the next day, he was buying ingredients for what looked like a real meal, not just a temporary stay. "You're still here," Hannah said, pushing her cart alongside his. "Project got extended," James replied with a shrug. "Beautiful area. Thought I'd stay a while." For how long? Undetermined. His eyes met hers. Is that a problem? Hannah felt her cheeks warm. No, of course not. Later that week, Hannah was working her shift at the hospital when Dr. Peterson mentioned the tech company looking at opening a campus near Bayview. Their CEO has been in town personally, he said. Crawford, I think his name is. Big deal for our little town. Crawford? Hannah almost dropped the chart she was holding. James Crawford? You know him. We've met, Hannah said carefully. After her shift, Hannah drove to James's rental. She found him on the deck, laptop open, talking on his phone. Move the Tokyo meeting to next month. We can do the Seattle presentation virtually. He looked up, surprised to see Hannah. I'll call you back, he told the person on the phone. You're the CEO, Hannah said. Not just some business guy, the CEO. James closed his laptop. Yes. And you've rescheduled everything to stay here in Bayview? I have good internet, he said with a small smile. I can work from anywhere. Why? Hannah demanded. Why are you still here when I rejected your offer? James stood up, facing her. Because I wasn't just offering a business deal. Then what were you offering? Hannah's voice rose. Because I can't figure you out, James Crawford. 1 minute you're a stranger in a storm, the next you're a millionaire with a business proposal, and now you're rearranging your entire life to stay in a town where nothing happens. I'm here because of you, James finally shouted, his cool demeanor cracking. Because for the first time in 10 years, I met someone who didn't care about my money or my company or what I could do for them. Someone who gave me soup from a can and old clothes and expected nothing in return. Hannah stared at him, speechless. James ran a hand through his hair. Do you know what my life is like? Everyone wants something. Business partners, women I date, even friends, they all want a piece of what I have. But not you. You helped me because it was the right thing to do. And then you rejected my offer because your independence matters more than money. I'm scared, Hannah admitted, her voice small. I'm scared of depending on someone again. Derek left me with nothing and a 2-year-old. I built everything back up by myself. And I'm scared of finding someone who only sees my bank account, James countered, who pretends to care but is just waiting for what they can get. They stood facing each other, the truth finally between them. The ring, Hannah said suddenly. Your grandmother's ring. What was that really about? James stepped closer. Partnership, not charity, not romance. My grandmother wore that ring while building a life from nothing. She never took handouts, but she believed in working together with people she trusted. He paused. I trust you, Hannah. I believe in your dream, not as a charity case, as someone who deserves a chance. Before Hannah could respond, a car door slammed in the driveway. Derek appeared on the deck, clearly drunk. So this is where the rich guy lives. He looked around, whistling. Nice place. Bet Hannah loves it here. Derek, what are you doing? Hannah hissed. How did you find this address? Small town, he slurred. Everyone knows everything. He turned to James. So you're the millionaire trying to buy my wife. Ex-wife, James said calmly, and nobody's buying anyone. Right, Derek laughed. Hannah's just coincidentally interested in the richest guy to ever hit Bayview. You need to leave, Hannah said firmly. Or what? Your boyfriend will throw me out? Derek stepped closer to James. You know she's just after your money, right? She'll play the struggling single mom until she gets what she wants. I should know. Something snapped in Hannah. You left us. With nothing. I worked 2 jobs while raising our daughter because you decided family was too boring for you. Tears streamed down her face now. And now you're back because you heard there might be money involved. You haven't even asked about Lily once. Not once. James stepped between them. I think you should go now. Or what? Derek challenged. Or I call Sheriff Wilson, James said quietly, who happens to be investigating some interesting tax issues for me. I'm sure he'd love to talk to you. Derek backed away. This isn't over. After he stumbled down the beach steps, Hannah collapsed into a chair, shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered, for all of this. James knelt in front of her. Don't apologize. Not for him, not for anything. I've spent so long convincing myself I don't need anyone, Hannah said, looking into his eyes. That needing help means I'm weak. Needing others doesn't make you weak, James said, taking her hands. It makes you human. And what about you? Hannah asked. A CEO who could be anywhere in the world choosing to stay in Bayview? James smiled softly. Maybe I needed someone to remind me what matters more than business deals and board meetings. So what do we do now? Hannah asked. We figure it out, James said simply. Together. The word hung between them. Together. Not a business proposal, not charity, something else entirely. 3 months later, a small crowd gathered outside the renovated storefront on Bayview's main street. A fresh sign hung above the door, Bayview Community Health Clinic. Hannah stood nervously beside James, scissors in hand, ready to cut the ribbon. I can't believe we're really doing this, she whispered. You're doing this, James corrected. I just helped with the paperwork. That wasn't entirely true. The clinic had been a true partnership. Hannah's medical expertise and community connections, combined with James's business knowledge and resources. They had rewritten the agreement dozens of times until Hannah was comfortable. Not a handout, but a true professional partnership. She would run the clinic, providing affordable health care to the community. James would handle the business side, teaching her as they went. Ready? James asked. Hannah took a deep breath and cut the ribbon. The crowd cheered as Mayor Wilson made a speech about progress coming to Bayview. Lily bounced excitedly beside them, wearing a tiny lab coat that matched her mother's. Later, after the last visitors had toured the new facility, Hannah found James sitting alone in what would be her office. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. James looked up with a smile. "Just thinking about that storm. How sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes." Hannah sat across from him. "You've changed Bayview. People don't even whisper anymore when you walk into the grocery store." "I think baking cookies for the school fundraiser helped," James joked, "and coaching Lily's soccer team." Over the past months, James had become part of the town in ways no one expected. He helped Mr. Johnson fix his aging truck. He joined the volunteer fire department. He knew everyone's coffee orders at Becky's Cafe. "Your board still thinks you're crazy for spending so much time here," Hannah noted. "They're coming around, especially since we decided to build the smaller tech campus outside town. More jobs, less disruption to the community." Hannah leaned forward. "Can I ask you something? Why did your perspective change? You were this high-powered CEO focused on expansion and profit." James was quiet for a moment. "When you're worth hundreds of millions, you stop seeing value in normal things. Everything becomes a transaction." He looked at her. "Then I got stuck in a storm with someone who had almost nothing by my standards, yet had everything that mattered. You were happy. You had purpose. You had Lily. I wasn't that happy," Hannah admitted. "I was struggling." "But you were real," James insisted. You showed me what I'd been missing: connection, community, helping others directly, not just writing checks from a distance. The evening sun streamed through the new clinic windows. In the soft light, Hannah realized how much had changed. She was still independent. The clinic was legally structured to ensure that, but she'd learned that partnership didn't mean giving up control. "Come for a walk?" James asked suddenly. They strolled down to the beach where they'd had their confrontation months earlier. The water was calm today, reflecting the sunset. "I sold my penthouse in Seattle," James said casually. "What?" Hannah stopped walking. "Why?" "Because I bought the beach house here instead." He turned to face her. "I'm staying in Bayview, permanently." Hannah's heart raced. "What about Crawford Tech?" "I can run it from here most of the time. The new management team is handling day-to-day operations." James took her hands. "I've found something more important than board meetings." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the familiar velvet box. Hannah's breath caught. "This isn't exactly how I planned this," James said nervously. "But nothing about us has been conventional." He opened the box. The same vintage ruby ring gleamed in the sunset light. "Before, this ring represented my grandmother's journey. Now it represents ours." James's voice grew soft. "From a stranger in a storm to the woman I want to spend my life with." He knelt on the sand. "Hannah Wilson, you've shown me what matters. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Hannah's eyes. "My answer is yes, but Lily has to approve." James grinned. "Already asked her. She made me promise to build a treehouse in the backyard." Hannah laughed through her tears as James slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. "From a storm to forever," Hannah whispered as James pulled her close. Behind them, the clinic sign caught the last rays of sunlight, a symbol of what they'd built together, and all that was yet to come. 6 months later, the permanent sign was unveiled above the clinic door. No longer just Bayview Community Health Clinic, but Wilson Family Clinic. The modest building gleamed with fresh paint, its windows spotless in the morning sun. Hannah stood between James and Lily, all three cutting the ribbon together this time. The crowd that gathered was twice the size of the soft opening. Everyone in Bayview had come to celebrate. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," Hannah said into the microphone. "This clinic belongs to all of us, to our community." James squeezed her hand as she spoke, his wedding band catching the sunlight. They had married just 2 months earlier in a simple ceremony on the beach, with Lily as their flower girl. Mrs. Peterson, who once whispered about Hannah's motives, now headed the clinic's volunteer program. She approached them after the ceremony. "My grandson got his asthma medicine here last week," she told Hannah. "Don't know what we would have done without you. The nearest hospital is an hour away." Inside the clinic, Dr. Wilson Hannah had kept her name professionally showed visitors, the new pediatric room painted with underwater scenes. James had done the artwork himself, spending weekends on a ladder with Lily, supervising from below. Mayor Wilson pulled James aside. "Never thought I'd see Crawford Tech's CEO painting fish on walls," he chuckled. "Bayview's been good for you." "Best decision I ever made," James replied, watching Hannah explain the clinic's sliding payment scale to an elderly couple. Later, as they closed up for the day, Hannah found James standing in the main hallway, looking at something on the wall. It was a shadow box display. Inside was the emergency candle they had used the night of the storm, along with the business card he had given her and a photo of their small family on their wedding day. "From emergency candles to clinic lights," James read the small plaque beneath it. Hannah slipped her arm around his waist. "From strangers to family." Lily bounded up to them. "Can we go get ice cream now? You promised." "Did I?" James pretended to forget. "I don't remember promising ice cream." "You did," Lily insisted. "After the ribbon thing, you said we'd celebrate." Hannah laughed. She never forgets a promise involving dessert. As they walked out together, Hannah took one last look at their clinic. 6 examination rooms, a small lab, community education space, and already a waiting list of patients. A dream she once thought impossible. Outside, they climbed into James's car. No longer the flashy luxury vehicle, but a practical family SUV. Lily chattered from the back seat about her school project, while Hannah and James exchanged a private smile in the front. Life's storms come without warning. They disrupt our plans, force us onto unexpected paths, and sometimes leave us stranded with strangers. But sometimes sheltering someone else is how we find our own home. Hannah had opened her door during a storm, never imagining she was opening her heart to a new beginning. The Wilson family drove away from the clinic, heading home together, proof that the most powerful storms can bring the most beautiful changes. If you enjoyed Sheltering Hearts, please share your thoughts below and follow for more stories about love, family, and new beginnings found in the most unexpected places. Have you ever had an unexpected encounter that changed your life? Tell us your storm story.